welcome to the Glowing Skin series. I'm Christine Ho, and today I have Robert Scott Bell. He hosts the fastest 2 hours of healing information on the radio. So hello, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Christine. Glad to be with you.
Oh yes, of course. And so please tell us your own personal story.
Well, as it relates to skin, I can tell you I had some nasty skin afflictions when I was from a baby onwards through my teen years and through my young adult years. Now, I can tell you in retrospect what caused it, and we can get to that, but suffice it to say, I was pharmaceutically grown. I was given antibiotics a lot, steroids as well, steroids and non-steroidal treatments for skin rashes and conditions that led to uncontrollable scratching till they bled behind my elbows, behind my ears, behind my knees. So although there were many complaints, you can't ignore when your skin is just screaming at you, for instance. And of course, a lot of the problems that had happened to me being raised pharmaceutically were caused not by doctors that intended to harm me, but just by using that which they know. It harmed my insides, particularly my gastrointestinal tract. And that manifested in a way that it harmed my ability to excrete toxins or metabolic waste through the liver, through the colon, through the kidneys, through the urine. And the skin is technically the largest organ for elimination that we have, although it usually only acts in a way we don't like when it's compensating for other elimination pathways that are not doing their job to the best of their ability. Again, liver, kidney congestion can often result in skin afflictions, skin manifestations. And medically speaking, just like they did to me, they would put things on my skin to help the affliction apparently go away. Little did I know, or my mom and dad know, that it was driving things back into the skin that my body was desperately trying to throw out through the skin, so that we could pay attention a little better to the messages that are being sent to us via things we don't like on our skin. To say, you know what, something's going on here. It isn't just about a drug that we throw on it, make it go away. What is happening? And we go deep within the body, which is key to my discovery and recovery ultimately, by healing my liver, by healing my gut, by cleaning up what into my body, right? And giving the body what it needed. That skin, over now half a century plus 2 years, I have skin that some people say, dude, you haven't aged since high school, right? I think I have a little. I've lost a little hair, got some gray, but the skin itself has maintained a fairly youthful appearance. And it's not like I put makeup on. That's not a guy thing to do anyway. But, there are ways that we can have glowing skin, but they all relate to what we're putting in our body, not just on the body.
So how did you come into tackling everyday health issues on the radio?
Well, when I found ways to help heal my body, I found that I had an ability, a knack to communicate them to other people that were ready to hear it, right? There was a vast level of ignorance that I had, being a standard American and a standard American diet, fast food, etc., boxes and foods and boxes, right? And so when I learned of this, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. Nobody seems to know this in America, right? So I was learning homeopathic medicine. I switched my diet to eat organically grown foods. I learned about detoxification, probiotics, minerals. So I found that I had this ability to communicate it, and it was like a natural extension. Sort of I happened into the mass media, and through radio developed a following over years and years of doing this. Now I'm in my 19th year of broadcasting, to communicate these things that I didn't know growing up, and that most Americans are just now coming to realize. And of course, not only America, but Canada, the Western world, and much of the world now, because of the internet, expanded our ability to communicate through radio via internet. So we have listeners all over the world now, and it's 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, trying to bring that message of health, freedom, and healing liberty, and the fact that the power to heal is yours. It's mine, it's ours. And we just got to tap into those principles, apply them, and watch what happens, not because you're lucky, but because you've tapped into the principles that actually work.
And so how does homeopathy actually relate to skincare?
Well, in homeopathic medicine, we have remedies for almost anything and everything. Symptoms guide our selection of remedies. So if we look in the history of homeopathy in the early years, 200 plus years ago, they utilized a remedy known as sulfur, homeopathic sulfur. Sulfur is like the skin remedy. It's like a centrifuge. It acts like a centrifuge. So if something is on the skin, it helps the body throw it out more efficiently, more completely. But interestingly enough, if you go back into the homeopathic textbooks from origin point, and you say, my gosh, this is the remedy for everything, just about all skin, and you apply it. Again, homeopathic sulfur. Now, there is sulfur that's kind of stinky as a supplement. That's not what I'm talking about. Convert it into a homeopathic form, taken internally, that it heals the skin or helps the skin to clear. But I find that, and many homeopaths of the clinical variety in a modern contemporary setting will say, you know what, that remedy sulfur you read about, it's like it's supposed to be so awesome. It doesn't work as well anymore. And you're thinking, well, what happened? What changed? It isn't that sulfur is not a good remedy or it's different somehow now, but it's that we have become more complicated, the patients, the people. Whereas in 100, 200 years ago, we were dealing with acute manifestations due to a temporary sudden onset of something. We are now primarily dealing with chronic accumulation, bioaccumulation of metabolic waste and environmental toxins, heavy metals, things that the body can't handle from an internal perspective. And it's complicated, but it is using the skin as an evacuation or an escape route. So to just simply use that remedy sulfur doesn't seem to be adequate. Now we have to use remedies that address the liver, the detox pathways that open wide the liver, the kidney meridians, the lymphatic system, to begin to detoxify through the normal channels that minimize then the need for the body to compensate through the skin in a way that it is doing so just because, hey, it's smart, it adapts for your survival. And unfortunately, if we look at a skin affliction and we drive it back in with an antibiotic, with a steroid like a prednisone or a cortisone, like I did in my young life, we actually make worse the initial problem inside. So we're taking a homeopathic remedy and saying, all right, we've got to expand our understanding of the biological system, the interaction between organs and organ systems, and we got to bring them back online. So now I would use Bryonia alba, which is the common hops known in homeopathic. Bryonia is a liver polycrest. Or chelidonium, which is the celandine plant, again, another common liver polycrest remedy. Or even Nux vomica, which a lot of people may know of as a remedy for the stomach and things, but it's also a liver polycrest remedy. So we look to do the drainage support, drainage, detoxification support with homeopathy to enhance the skin, because you reduce the necessity of the skin to compensate for an organ or organs of elimination that are congested or overwhelmed.
Wow, that sounds very amazing and very good advice, actually.
Yeah, it's a perspective that even homeopaths are not all on board with yet, because it's just like anything. We can get stuck in the old ways of doing things and not realize things have changed, and we've got to modify the way we interact. This is not to say homeopathy is bad or wrong. It just means we interact with remedies in a different way when we begin to see layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of toxicity and dysfunction of the systems that bring out, for instance, for our discussion here, skin maladies, right? We could have skin maladies associated with herpetic lesions, herpes viruses, even chickenpox, which is in the herpes family. That's more of an acute viral explosion that we can address, for instance, yes, homeopathically, but we can utilize silver or silver hydrosol topically to stop viral replication and heal the skin. But again, we need to know what we're dealing with so we apply whatever remedy we're going for, hopefully holistically, but appropriately.
Okay, yeah. So how did you learn so much about all this different background in homeopathic remedies that even some of these other homeopathic specialists don't even concur with?
Well, I was greatly blessed. It was an answer to prayers, quite honestly. As I grew up with many ailments and illnesses in my young years, including musculoskeletal inflammation, plenty of skin problems, chronic infections of the ear, the sinuses, the gut. We would run out of time if I told you all the ailments I had growing up. So there were times in my teen years, being in a medical family, the doctors just gave me drug after drug. I was on allergy shots, allergy medication for all the respiratory problems. I would pray, please, God, heal me. And I thought it might be a lightning bolt from the sky that would heal me miraculously, because the experts, the doctors, admitted they didn't know why I was sick, and maybe I'd grow out of it, maybe not. They didn't know. And so the answer to prayers didn't come in a lightning bolt from the sky that healed me miraculously. It was a homeopathic doctor from Belgium that came into my life at the time I was ready. And I began to study with him for, well, over a decade. And I got to learn things clinically that you don't learn in books anymore or ever. And so it's more of the master-apprentice relationship that we used to learn to become healers or masters of any craft, for instance. So I was fortunate, and that's the way I was, instead of healed, I was sent a healer who would teach me how to heal myself. And that's kind of why I went out into broadcast media, to teach others to do the same or better in whatever way they're ready to hear it.
Wow, that's very inspiring. And so what are some different small tips you can give to everyone about healing their skin and helping to improve their skin type?
Number one on the list is actually hydration. And I don't know if you're going to do an interview, I would recommend that you look into the molecular hydrogen capacity of dissolving hydrogen into water and how that enhances water's ability to do all that water is supposed to do. Even a 1% drop from ideal optimal hydration can result in 10% drops in metabolic efficiency of all things, including detoxification pathways. So staying young and vibrant and healthy means staying hydrated. And I interviewed Dr. Batman Gelage many years ago, who wrote Your Body's Many Cries for Water. He was an Iranian physician, talked about how he was able to help heal with water alone. And in fact, that interview is still available from 2002 on a YouTube. If you go to robertswater.com, you can actually see it there. It's really kind of cool. But that is number one on the list, is hydration, because it makes everything else work better. Now, as you begin to heal the liver, you recognize the liver needs certain minerals like selenium. Selenium is incredible because its capacity for production then of glutathione, the detoxification, the antioxidants within the body to bind and excrete things through the normal channels, so that the skin is less needing to compensate, right? So I'm looking to heal the liver. We mentioned some homeopathic remedies as well. Another aspect of healthy skin is fat. We need fat. We're afraid of fat. We're a fat phobic culture in the West, and we've got to embrace that we are fat deficient. Now, the fat I'm talking about is not trans fats. It's not hydrogenated oils, but it's healthy fats. Even from animal sources, if you get clean sources of saturated fats, or coconut oil, for instance, has a great saturated fat profile. But omega-3 essential fatty acids are also very beneficial and necessary, because the elasticity, the vascular integrity, the integrity of the entire connective tissue relates to fat, but also, guess what? Another mineral that is often overlooked, but for skin, it's sort of known. Maybe you've heard of silicon or silica. Silica is that skin, hair, and nail beauty mineral, but in the right form, and I talk about this and many other things in my book, Unlock the Power to Heal, the right forms of these minerals, how they can transform your connective tissue. The connective tissue includes your skin, and silica is critical for skin, hair, and nails, but also internal beauty. If we talk about the integrity of the skeletal system, the nervous system, the vascular system, every system is critically reliant on having adequate quantities of that mineral silica. And to slide back just on the fat issue one more time, if you want to have healthy looking skin, stay away from statin drugs. Statin drugs reduce cholesterol in the body, but that's not good, because cholesterol is not the cause of heart disease. And in fact, is your critical component for protecting brain and neurological health and skin health, protecting the cells. And guess what? The youth hormones depend on adequate cholesterol levels, which are produced primarily in your liver. And we talked about how important your liver is with selenium, with homeopathy, different things, and even hydration. So don't be afraid of cholesterol. Recognize that they've correlated higher levels of cholesterol in the body to longevity, healthy, longer life, brain and neurological health, so you don't have the degradation diseases as well. So all of this, inside and outside, all is connected.
So you did mention about statin drugs. So what exact type of drugs would, so what are some examples of statin drugs?
Well, that's like Mevacor, or what are the classic statin drugs that you hear about? This was based off of the red yeast rice. If you heard of the Chinese red yeast rice, these are toxic poisons. In fact, they're sold as dietary supplements. They're a little less toxic in that form. But these statin drugs, Merck is the biggest company that produces them, originally got the patent on them. And what happens is that by reducing cholesterol, in order to reduce cholesterol, you have to attack the liver. When you attack the liver, you attack the body's ability to detoxify. The other thing that these drugs do is they lower the availability in the mitochondria to coenzyme Q10, the essential energy production facility of the cell. So they're going to age you, and they reduce cholesterol, so they're also going to make less available the body's ability to produce the vital youth hormones, estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. So this is going to age you. Cholesterol lowering medication will age you. So you definitely want to stay away from those things. And, unfortunately, we've been lied to about cholesterol because they have a drug to reduce it. And the reality is we need to embrace fat, including cholesterol, because it keeps us youthful and young.
Okay, so, but having high cholesterol is still a bad thing, right?
Well, it's hard to say, honestly. I don't believe so because, as I mentioned, the peer-reviewed literature says that higher cholesterol correlates with longevity, and it correlates with less dementia, less Alzheimer's, and neurological degradation diseases. So what is high cholesterol for you might not be high for somebody else. We haven't, analyzed your ancestry, your heritage, your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa to find out what's normal, right? What's normal could be here for one person and here for another, or here for another. So the reality is what they've said, they've oversimplified that high cholesterol is causing heart disease, which is not. It's calcification within the arteries. It's inflammation within the arteries. Again, a lack of vascular elasticity and integrity, silicon deficiency. Again, whether it's inside the body or outside the body, you'll see that with skin. By reducing cholesterol, you're going to age yourself, and you're likely not going to live long enough to have a heart attack, if that's your goal. But again, this is the misinformation that's been played out for decades now about cholesterol. So I do dispute the claim that high cholesterol is a danger.
Okay, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's definitely some new information that I think a lot of people will be wanting to learn more about. So that's actually kind of, a good thing to educate as much as we can.
Yeah, I know. I don't mean to frighten anybody, but they certainly do a job of frightening people who have high cholesterol, or what they call high cholesterol. And if they don't, or are not willing to read their own medical literature to find out that half the people with high cholesterol, that have heart attacks have high cholesterol, half the people that have heart attack have low cholesterol. So if you've got an equal distribution of both, then how do you say it's the cause of heart disease? Okay, so I'll let it rest there, and people can dig into it deeper.
Okay, that's definitely very good advice, and definitely something for a lot of people to think about. And so what are some signs and symptoms that you would say are on the skin that, would say that you would, for anyone to recommend seeing a holistic specialist for?
Well, I mean, if you're not happy with your skin's appearance, certainly, and I like that you use the holistic specialist, if you will. Obviously, sometimes specialists are too specialized, right? In the field of dermatology, these doctors, and they might mean well, but they are so focused on drugging you from the outside, sometimes antibiotics from the inside, but it is a detriment to the function of your system, and the acknowledgement is to the reason why you might be having skin issues that you're not happy with. In terms of acne. If it's an acne that's normally part of, for instance, transition through adolescence to adulthood, it's not too overly concerning. You have a lot of oil gland production at that time. If you're not keeping your skin clean, you're going to have debris that's stuck in the pores and create these issues. If you're talking cystic acne, that can be more serious. There's a book by my friend Kyle Krejci called Face It. And I think he would be a great guy to interview if you get a chance. You might have already done all your interviews, but he's written a great book because he had that problem, and he's done some great work nutritionally and topically to address that. But hydration is, again, a big factor. If you begin to hydrate more efficiently and you find, wow, my skin is looking better, right? We mentioned the fats. My gosh, I am really afraid of fat. I'm on a low-fat diet, and my skin looks, oh, it's awful, right? Start incorporating healthy fats back into your diet. See how that manifests. If you need to use homeopathic remedies that are indicated for different things, we mentioned only a few of them. Look to the liver, detoxify the liver, see how that plays out in what's manifesting on your skin. Holistically, who can work with your skin? Naturopaths, homeopaths, even doctors of chiropractic or osteopathic medicine, if they're not doing drug therapy, can look at all things in a different way and say, my gosh, is there a neurological interface that's impacting the skin, right? So when we talk about herpetic activity, shingles, for instance, that's her herpes virus, the chickenpox virus replicating, causing really some horrible, horrible manifestations on the skin that can be very painful. Would that be a time that I would use silver topically? Absolutely. The hydrosol that I use, I've written about that extensively and Unlock the Power to Heal. But fundamentally, if we don't heal the gut, and we've only kind of paid a little bit of service to it, because I talk liver, but the liver gut are related, probiotics, how do we get the probiotics to stick? We have to restore the healthy terrain that has been damaged by vaccines, antibiotics, additives, preservatives, colorings, flavorings, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, GMOs, plasticizers, and heavy metals. And so in my book, Unlock the Power to Heal, which we're going to provide that chapter for free. Those who want to get the book, you can get it on Amazon, but the chapter on healing the gut is going to be the critical phase of your recovery out here, because the epithelial lining, this is epithelium out here, epithelial lining in there has been so corrupted. Unless we heal it, and that's what that protocol does, we can do everything we can topically and miss that it started inside our bodies.
Wow, that's really amazing to learn, and definitely helpful for so many people to guide and learn more about with what they can do, especially about seeing a holistic specialist, and also about the guiding about like the digestive lining and helping with our skin problems.
Absolutely. You cannot overlook the gut. If you do, you're going to be chasing your skin for a lot of years. And unfortunately, you'll end up going to doctors, because even the holistic people, if they didn't focus in the right place, they're not going to succeed either. So be careful when you choose anything, from a medical doctor to a holistic specialist, that they understand the role of the gut and the liver internally, because that precedes what manifests externally.
Yes, that's true. Not too many people know about how skin is so directly tied to the gut and to our digestive system. So that is definitely very good information. So yes, so please tell us, what are you most proud of from 2017?
Wow, 2017, what a world tour I was on. Well, I think the fact that people are responding let me know that this kind of information that we're discussing here in this Healthy Skin Glowing Summit, is really working for people. And I'm careful about pride, but I'm grateful, certainly, when I hear the people say, you know what, I did the silica like you said. I read your book, Unlock the Power to Heal, and the protocols you put in there, they really do work. And that certainly thrills me, not because it's a credit to me, but it's a credit to those that actually put this stuff into play, actually put it to the test. And they're learning, as I say, and I remind people every hour of my show, that the power to heal is yours, it's theirs, it's mine, it's ours, that you have the capacity to take control of your health, and that includes how your skin looks. It's not just, oh, my genes are bad, I'm going to have wrinkles, or the things you do matter. And if you live youthfully, you find out what you love to do. This gets into the mission, the purpose, the reason for being. You'll find that you'll stay young because you're happy to be here. If you don't know who you are or why you're here, it gets a little esoteric, I know, but you'll kind of it'll be a mystery. You might be lost, and then you're vulnerable for suggestions that are not for your best interest. Here, take this drug, right? Do this, and these things that might not be uplifting or facilitating the recovery of function in your system. So part of this is a journey that addresses emotional and mental and spiritual concepts, so that we maintain that youthful appearance. If you love being here, it's going to, it's going to glow through you, that presence. So that's the plus factor in talking about glowing skin.
What are you most excited about for 2018?
Wow, I think that the outreach is growing, the acknowledgement of people, even in the medical profession, that there are limits to drug therapy in terms of health, and the embracing of the message that I've been, communicating for over 25 years now. It's just inevitable that more people will come to this realization. The question is, are there enough people to help those people, to hold their hand, to guide them to go the right way? Because, there's always the opportunists. There are always people that are trying to take advantage of people that are trying to learn new things. I recognize that. And that's why, I like to ask people not to believe me just because I say it. But if it doesn't resonate with your gut, right, you have your spider senses tingling, there's something not right here, that you get reconnected to that form of communication. Your cells are not going to lie to you. When you try something that should heal you and it makes you worse, pay attention to that. Now, it's not to say that in the process of healing, sometimes you can feel a little bit rotten. That's part of my journey. I didn't always feel great when I was healing my liver and detoxifying things that had been accumulating for years. Or undoing, in homeopathy, we call it the Herring's law of cure. Sometimes you undo that which you have suppressed, so that you suppressed it in childhood. Now it's going to manifest as you're truly healing. So I don't want you to give up because something does become worse, but there is a sense that if you can connect to it, innate intelligence, that chiropractors call it, intuition. Those who are spiritually inclined, the voice of spirit will be communicating to you, this is wrong, or stay the course, you're on the right track. And that's part of what I had to rely on, because a lot of this was new to me. I didn't know it growing up. It was not intuitive initially, right? The experts said, don't listen to your gut. Here, take this drug and destroy your gut. So now you're asking people to go a little bit more sensitively toward their future, to not only use their higher levels of cognition. Yes, we don't want you to park your brain at the door and leave it. You know, we need to think, but there are some things we didn't know, we haven't learned. Sometimes we have to rely a little bit on intuition and go into that heart center, or confide in someone that you trust that doesn't have a vested interest in one way or another other than your concerns, and talk about it. You know, again, these are things that we've seemingly lost the ability to do. It's not just lurk on the internet says something, it's right or it's wrong. Talk about it with people that have been down this road before, found this path, and you'll find there's a lot of valuable insights that you can trust and rely upon. But ultimately, you've got to take it within and go with your gut in addition to your intelligence, right? It's a combination of all those things, the heart, the head, right? The gut, all of that's related.
Every single type of way that you take care of yourself shows everywhere. So it manifests with everything. It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yeah, it's one of the things I was thinking about with my series too. So yes, please tell us more about your free gift.
Well, the healing of the gut is key to everything. And I had to do this for myself initially. And I didn't have access to 24, 26, 27 years now of experience when I started. I was utilizing homeopathic remedies, probiotics. I cleaned up what went into my body, right? But it still took me 2 full years of intense work at the age of 24 to the age of 26 to bring my gut back online, which seems like a long time, but I had been ill for 24 years. So it was about a month for every year I was alive of concerted effort to get back to where I needed to be, or I had never been. But with the advancements of working, you know, with many doctors, physicians, holistic, and even medical, since that time, I've helped to develop and work and refine protocols that accelerate gut recovery from 2 years to as little as 2 months or shorter, depending on where you're starting from. So if you're not as bad as I was when I started, you might be 2 weeks, maybe 4, 6, maybe 8 weeks, but that's pretty impressive. So in the book, Unlock the Power to Heal, which I'd encourage you to get the whole book, but for you and your audience, we have a special availability and a link that we're giving you to download a PDF of that chapter, which I believe is the most important chapter of the book, that talks about the protocol to heal the gut in 2, 4, 6, or 8 weeks. It involves silver hydrosol, it involves aloe vera juice, it involves probiotics, and there are other adjuncts, whether homeopathic or otherwise, if you want to expand or you're using things already that are helping. We're going to accelerate that recovery. And when you heal the gut, you heal every aspect of your body: brain, mind, digestion, immune function, and skin. So this to me is a miraculous thing that I came to after it took me 2 years to do it. So what we're dealing with is the benefit of a lot more years of experience to refine and make even easier, simpler, the recovery of gut, so that, yes, skin will benefit as well.
Oh yes, of course, because all of that is so very important with understanding more about skincare and how we can improve our own, outside appearance as well. Because it's all reflected of what our digestive system is doing.
Exactly.
Tell us more about how we can actually help our guts in order to make sure that we have, healthy, glowing skin.
Well, we'll come back to the hydration principle. If you are stressing your digestive system by eating foods, even good foods, to excess, and you're not hydrated enough going in, the body requires a lot of water, believe it or not, in the process of digestion. This is not me arguing that every time you eat, you should drink a gallon of water. That would not be ideal. The idea is to be hydrated prior to your meals. And then, of course, chew the food properly. All of these things go well for proper digestive function. But we talk about probiotics, whether you're doing fermented foods, which are excellent, or doing probiotic supplementation. Remember, the food for the probiotics is called the prebiotics. So you want to find an ability to have the feeding of that which you're putting in, or, as we talk about in the free chapter of the book that we're offering to you, a method by which you can restore the very epithelial lining that is critical as a home for the microbiome, that sets the stage for what? Proper digestion, proper detoxification, proper production of neurotransmitters, proper production of endocrine compounds, your hormones, all of these things related to gut health. Now, I liken this because if we use a visual analogy, right? I talked about antibiotics. They are very disruptive and destructive of the gut ecology, but also indiscriminately destructive of the epithelial lining. It's if you can imagine pouring toxic acid on your skin, in a sense, it would burn your skin. You'd have lesions, you'd have inflammation, you'd have holes, right? Now you have leaky gut. So if we throw probiotics into that terrain, the probiotics themselves are not sufficient enough to heal those injuries, those wounds. So with the Silver Aloe Protocol, I talk about reasons for the properties of everything that I use to go in and reduce the tissue inflammation, the cellular inflammation on contact, and to upregulate a process of regenerating the healthy tissue. That allows for that probiotic microbiome replenishment. Because if you, let's say, napalm the jungles of Vietnam or the Brazilian rainforest, but you love animals, so before you napalm and wipe out the jungle, you save the animals, you take the animals out, so you feel good about yourself. You're not happy that you had to burn the jungle down, but you saved the animals. But now you say, okay, we're done with that, let's put the animals back. And you put them in the terrain that is now in existence because you napalm the jungle. It's no longer there. What happens to the animals? They all die. You didn't kill them with napalm. You destroyed their home, their habitat. And that's what happens with antibiotics in our gut. We destroy the habitat for the microbiome, so simply putting more bacteria in is not sufficient. They don't have the right home to live in. And then you see probiotic failure. And it's not the fault of the probiotic. It's the fault of the terrain, the environment, the milieu. That's what we heal with this protocol, so that when we do the probiotic replenishment, during and after, they have the right home, and you will succeed where you maybe only marginally succeeded or didn't succeed at all prior to that. So this is the difference maker. This is the transformation of your future. Heal your gut, heal your body, heal your skin. It's a miracle. It's a miracle that we pay attention to the laws of life and apply them.
Oh yes, of course. So also explain to the audience how, they can know if they have leaky gut or not.
Well, allergies are indicative of leaky gut. The access to the bloodstream of undigested macromolecules and proteins, or viruses, or fungal or bacteria, all of these things turn the immune system into a permanent state of on. And that always on scenario creates the hyper responsiveness to allergens, triggers in the environment, naturally occurring substances. So if you have allergies, by definition, there is some evidence of leaky gut. But there can be other digestive issues associated with it, systemic inflammation, yeast overgrowth, any number of things that can create that scenario. But leaky gut is unfortunately all too common and underdiagnosed. But even if they do diagnose it, the chapter that we're giving for free is called "The Road to Colostomy Bags is Paved with Antibiotics and Prednisone." Because those drugs, however life-saving they can be in certain circumstances, are the very thing that precipitate the leaky gut and the worsening of the leaky gut over time. By the time they've addressed it for years and years, and they can no longer use those drugs because they become very dangerous and even deadly, they will start resectioning your colon and giving you an external bag. That is not a future I want for anybody. And we can reverse that before we ever get there with this protocol.
How can people, be able to obtain this protocol in order to help themselves with this leaky gut?
Well, it's in the book, my book that I wrote with Ty Bollinger. It's called Unlock the Power to Heal. You can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble online and order it directly, or you can go to unlockthepowertoheal.com or my website, robertscottbell.com. There's a link to it. But you can get the chapter for free, thanks to you. We're offering it, and you can download it with a special link that you have access to that, Christine, I know you're going to give that to everybody.
What are some skin conditions that are directly tied with leaky gut?
Well, I find that really any skin condition can be tied with leaky gut because it results in an immune disorder. And of course, things that are trying to get out through the skin can manifest in many, many different ways, as an eczema or even psoriasis, which is considered a miasmic disorder, inherited predisposition. So any manifestation on the skin, unlike contact dermatitis or a bug bite, bee sting, or poison ivy, these are contact related things, I always look at that as a reflection of gut health, including leaky gut. To heal it, there are homeopathic remedies for, let's say, you have uncontrollable itching. Well, that happens. There's a remedy called Mezereum, Mezereum. It's not as commonly prescribed, but it's a wonderful thing you would take orally, and it can address or reduce the intensity of uncontrollable scratching, this desire, this itching sensation. And this can be used even in a poison ivy case. Speaking of poison ivy, homeopathically, Rus toxicodendron. Rus tox is the homeopathic form of poison ivy. And that can be used in conjunction with an eczema or any kind of manifestation that mimics a poison ivy. So there are things that can be used. We mentioned the homeopathic sulfur, but let's say there's a skin manifestation in terms of an infection, like a boil or a cyst, or think about, what is it? The staph infection, or MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Staph infections, they talk about pus-like boils or manifestations on the skin. Then the remedy, those of you who want homeopathy, and I love it, and I include it with every protocol, including the silver that is an antimicrobial, Hepar sulfur calcareum, or Hepar sulfur, or Hepar sulfur short, homeopathic, Hepar sulfur. This is a homeopathic remedy indicated for those kind of skin manifestations. They're like pussy type manifestations that they often call a staph infection. So there are so many things that we can address that may or may not be related directly to a big manifestation of a leaky gut, but we can always assume outside of a contact dermatitis scenario that there likely is a gut interface interplay that we need to address.
Okay, yeah. So are there any certain situations like which some people might even want to address would be like wrinkles or age spots or even sunspots, would that have anything to do with leaky gut at all?
Yeah, those are a little less so. I mean, over time, yes, if the immune system is hyperfunctional and exhausts itself, it could lead to premature aging, right? Overexposure to the sun. I'm not one that wants you to put on any sunscreens unless you can find truly non-toxic forms. But the idea is adequate sun exposure is actually beneficial and healthy to skin. Excessive to burning, that's too much, right? So I don't want you to be like people are afraid of cholesterol. I don't want them to be afraid of the sun either. I want you to have adequate sun exposure for your pigmentation. That can be helpful. Now, in terms of aging, selenium deficiency can play a role there again. Copper deficiency. Now, it's hard to get copper in supplemental form. So you can use homeopathic cuprum metallicum. There are forms of colloidal copper that can be safe to take, or from a dietary source, if you're not a vegetarian, calf liver, beef liver, these things have high dietary copper. Also, bee pollen is another way to get dietary copper. And if you use copper, hydrosol, or colloidal copper on the skin, that can work with age spots sometimes as well.
Okay, yeah. What about even dark circles?
Well, dark circles are more, to me, liver related. So I want to, go back to selenium issue. I want to go back to the homeopathic drainage remedies as well. We can look to herbs like dandelion or milk thistle, different things that nourish the liver and excretory organ to minimize the impact on skin, any kind of manifestation, including dark circles.
Like, what about things like hyperpigmentation?
Yeah, sometimes we're seeing autoimmune issues with pigmentation. And autoimmunity is a manifestation of aberrant cells, okay? What we have is cells. Our immune system knows what's self and what's non-self. This is Immunology 101. If the cells become corrupted over time due to nutrient, mineral deficiencies and or toxicological burdens, could be heavy metals, could be persistent organic pollutants, any number of things, glyphosate now, the pesticides, and they alter the cell integrity, right? The cell is supposed to look like this. In the absence of certain minerals or the preponderance of toxins, the cell now looks like this. It might, to the naked eye, look the same, but to the immune cell, it says, well, that's not me. That's no longer self. So you begin to attack. You have an autoimmune response or reaction. Now, in modern medicine, they use immunosuppressant chemotherapeutic drugs. Very, very toxic medicines, whether it be methotrexate or other things. They suppress the immune system. They kill the immune system because they say the immune system has gone awry. Put it in a straitjacket. Kill it. My perspective as a homeopath, as holistically inclined dude, is to look at it a lot differently. It's like, hey, what went wrong with the cells? Why is the immune system attacking? I don't assume the immune system has gone crazy. I assume that there's something wrong with the cell or else the immune system wouldn't attack it. So we nourish the cells back to health. We hydrate. We detoxify. We remineralize, right? We remove the offending elements that we're eating that are not right. We look at our drug profile. How many drugs have doctors put us on that could have contributed to systemic inflammation? We were trying to reduce inflammation, but we damaged the liver so badly, now we can't detoxify. These toxins are corrupting our cells, including our skin cells, including the cells that are responsible for pigmentation. And then we have, again, the attack, hyper or hypopigmentation scenarios result. So we've got to keep the immune system in check, not by suppressing it, but restoring integrity to the cells themselves. And remember, the key to connective tissue health is silica. And I talk about the right form of silica. The right form is important. If you get the wrong form, it have little or no benefit to you. Again, that's also in Unlock the Power to Heal.
So what is the right form of silica?
Well, on a whole food perspective, the highest content of silica is in the horsetail. We would extract that either by concentrating it from the tea, for instance, because the tea is like a food form, and we can concentrate it into a tablet. I use the Alta Silica, a small family business out of Idaho. They make it for the same way for generations. And you can take larger quantities than you can get in the liquid drops form. And you can safely take it at that point. And we can do a silica challenge that's also written about in the book, where we would take 3 tablets 4 times a day for 2 to 4 weeks to really replenish for the connective tissue, right? Skeletal issues, but also skin, hair, nails, all the things that people are normally taking it when they think of beauty. But we fundamentally changed the course of the entire body by getting the bioavailable form, the right form, the safe form into the system. And that changes our future within a matter of weeks.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, so definitely something very exciting for a lot of people to learn about, and definitely some good advice that I'm sure a lot of people will start to use as well from now on.
Well, you'll learn the power to heal really is yours, but you got to give the body what it needs. You got to get rid of what the body doesn't need, and you got to stay hydrated. And then you'll realize what I'm saying is actually factual and truthful. But I ask everybody, put it to the test, try it out, and use your head, use your heart and your gut, and you're going to see, you're going to transform your future starting today.